Hello and welcome to Leverage Your Book Launch, the masterclass where we're going to be providing extra inspiration, going over the 7 hidden costs of self-publishing and other secrets that entrepreneur authors are not talking about, but really need to know. And I want to leave you with inspiration today with some strategies on how to leverage a book and actually get it done. Because when we run businesses like we do as entrepreneurs, we have work to do, we have clients to serve, we have marketing to put out, and the idea of launching a book, writing a book, launching a book, it's a big deal. So it is about balance, but strategy as well. And I'm going to share some insights on how I wrote my book in 5 days while running the business. And let's see here. We're going to go over 3 ways to leverage your book launch to get more clients. We're going to go through the 7 hidden money pits in the self-publishing journey. We are going to go through the power and strategy behind an Amazon bestseller launch, because you're going to be seeing these out there, what's involved and why is that a good thing for your launch. I want to talk a little bit about how I wrote my book in 5 days, and you can too. I'll be sharing an outline I use to get it done, which I've never seen out there before. It's kind of my own personal outline, but I think it's going to help you guys get some perspective on how I did it in 5 days. And ultimately it was through the weekend, so a Thursday, Friday to Monday, and I had guests visiting at the cottage. I was at the cottage when I wrote it. So I want you to know that if you're on vacation, if it's summertime and you're feeling overloaded, that this is absolutely something you can do even this summer to get something out in the fall to re-energize your business and give it some momentum. We're going to go through some game changers that I put in place for my clients around their book launches that will rock their campaigns and just kind of give them that extra edge. Additionally, we're going to go through some self-publishing milestones and some vendor types you want to consider, so you're well aware of all the costs involved in what's involved in self-publishing your book. And we're really going to talk a little bit to kick things off with the business case for a leveraged book launch. So first of all, what the heck is a leveraged book launch, right? Sometimes we use language in our business that we're comfortable with, we know inside and out, but then when we use it with others, then it's not landing in the right spot. So I wanted to make sure that you understood what I was talking about when I speak about a leveraged book launch, but also what it means to me and the industry itself, so that you have an idea of what it looks like. And before I do, I'm just going to plug in my hardwire, because that was one last thing. It's right here. I'm just going to get up for a second and plug it in. 1 second. Just get that high speed going, right? We pay extra for that each month. And where's my plug? Okay, this is live, folks. There we go. Okay, we're plugged in. All right. All the better to serve you with. Okay, so what is a leverage book launch? So my definition of a leverage book launch is an event that is utilized to generate leads, raise visibility, add credibility, and book more business opportunities for the author. And this is something I see happening a lot in our business, is that people aren't necessarily using business cards anymore. They're not necessarily, they want more. They want the social proof. They want the credibility. Sometimes in certain industries, we're battling against thousands of other people that say they do the same thing as we do. A book really helps position you as that go-to author that you are, and helps your potential customers identify what you do and what you do very well, how you do it, and who you do it for. And so a leverage book launch is really utilizing your expertise and getting it into the hands of the people that you want to work with. And I wanted to share some inspiration about how I used my book and leverage my book launch for you guys to see this in action, and I'll go through that right now. So I'm sitting here right now. I have a bunch of copies of my book here, different versions and editions and stuff, but this is the final version ready to amplify. But what you're going to see here too is that I do have some previous editions. I have some print on demand editions, and we're going to go through some of those elements. But first, let me tell you a little bit about my book launch. I hosted November 1. I did a pre-order period about 6 weeks out, but technically even 4 to 5 months out, I was promoting it, and the fact that it was coming out, it was going to be distributed. And let me tell you a little bit about that. So case study number 1. One of the things we don't think about a lot in leverage, we like to think about money, but often the best sales comes from clarity and confidence. And I want to make sure that before we get started, that everyone was able to download the workbook. So there's some worksheets for you guys to be taking notes while we go through. And Shelly, do you want to post that link to the PDF in the message box, just in case people didn't have that? They can go through. I want to start off with case study number 1, which is upping the game-changing ante for your business. So one of the things that I really had to do is pull out some of the key insights and aha moments from my book, quoted directly from my book, and utilize that in the marketing. And so I started putting together graphics even before the book came out, and after. This one's for after the launch, to share and highlight like what I think, my point of view, and what I was about. So also utilizing the fact that I was now an author of Ready to Amplify. So it was important there that I'm already leveraging the book before, during, and after the launch. And it adds that extra layer of credibility for my viewers. The other thing I started to do was reach out to local media and let them know that what I was up to and what I was doing. And that really amped up my credibility. And it forced me to play a bigger game, to reach out and clarify my message and identify to those writers and journalists exactly why me? Why do you need to write an article about me? What do I do? Why should you care? And also it encouraged me to kind of start a movement, really, in reaching out to women that had inspired me over the years to share how they amplified, behind the scenes of how they amplified. I'm getting dings and things here. I'm going to just silence my my messages right now. Let's press that silence, do not disturb button. It's been a while since I've done a masterclass. This is pretty exciting. So busy. Okay. So the other thing I want you to think about here when you're upping the game-changing ante is behind the scenes as you're working on your book. For me, that meant creating a bunch of videos that up the level for me in my marketing and promotions. I did a whole branding photo shoot for my my launch and for my brand in general, and for all the journalists and media that I was going to be approaching. I needed some photos that would really stand out for them, and a lot of them really liked these photos that we got creative with, like lying in my books and things like that. But also I did a book trailer, so a whole video around why I wrote the book, who it was for, what was involved, and I'm actually going to share that book trailer with you a little later on. It's just 1 minute long, but I wanted to share that with you guys so you can see kind of how that all came together and why I did that. The other thing too was reaching out to podcast hosts before, during, and after my launch, and creating a media page as I started getting on to more interviews and getting more media, to let people know, like, you know, I'm serious, this is who I am, here's what I talk about, and here's some photos you can download so you can check that out online. But these were just kind of things that I knew I needed to do, that I always advise my clients to do, and it forced me to actually put them into action. And that was great. This guy, Marco Nova, he was in Portugal, Stacey's in the United States, States. We have, you know, a ton of different recordings that are hosted in our media page now, so that we can promote those people and also spread their good messages. So case study number 2 is upping your credibility game. So this is something we struggle with even for ourselves. And I think I have a poll here. Let me see if I can run it. Let me see here. I know I have a couple different ones, but here's the thing. I'm gonna just launch this poll really quickly. It'll show up in your sidebar. But often upping the credibility game works twofold. It helps provide that social proof and sort of peace of mind for your potential customers. But again, it also helps you believe in yourself. I know that time and time again, when we take that next step, we up level, having these proof of purchase, these proof elements of like where we've been, where we've come from. And it was something that I think is really important when you think about leveraging a book launch, is building up your credibility and having that tangible proof. I know for my husband, when he finally saw that book, he was like, oh my God, this is what you do, right? So it's just that extra layer of credibility. And we're getting here, 100% that we, right now, of those that have voted, that, we do deal with imposter syndrome. And for some of you, okay, some of you are participating, okay, occasionally it pops up, right? So for me, what I find is imposter syndrome comes and goes, and usually like new level, new devil, right? So, that's always, and we're always evolving. I will tell you, I've done over 10 bestseller launches for my clients, but even creating these case studies, I was like, well, that was like last year. I was even going through a bit of imposter syndrome putting the slides together, because that happens when you're kind of stepping out of your comfort zone and really putting yourself out there. All right, so thank you for participating in that poll. That was great. So I'm just going to close that. Okay, so credibility games. So I put out a bunch of galley copies of my book before I actually published and edited it, and I had a booth at an event. This was at Journey to Success, a Company of Women event. And one of the things that it did for me is that it got me on the radar of Jennifer Beal. Now, Jennifer Beal is the host of an amazing event. It's called the Summer Networking Bash, and she has been running this event for years. I've been a full-time entrepreneur for, I think this is my 7th year. And last year when I put this this galley copy out, she had walked by my booth and she was like, wow, okay, so this is what you do. You help people step into a bigger spotlight, differentiate themselves from the competition, inspire their tribe, and showcase their area of expertise, and position yourself as a go-to expert. Like, really, the clarity that comes from a book launch is incredible. It forces you to put yourself in a box, which often we don't like to do, but it also put me on the radar of a woman that was looking to book experts at her event, which had over 1,000 people. And ultimately, it negotiated for me a phone call with her to talk about what I do and got me on her radar. So I did end up being a coach at her event last year. And this year, if you're in the Toronto area, I'm going to be hosting this as a coach again, and a booth at the Summer Networking Bash at August 14th. And I will have tickets for that. Some are complimentary. Just shoot me a PM. So that was really a great opportunity to get in front of more people, and also an opportunity to book an event as a featured expert. And, it was just literally just putting myself out there. And oh my goodness, I thought I said do not disturb. Sorry guys. Okay, so that was great. And here's some pictures from that event as well, where we did some speed coaching and some booth work as well. So the third piece of credibility game is reaching out and getting reviews and praise for your book. And one of the things that I did was reach out to my mentors, and one of them ended up being Company of Women's founder Ann Day, another one Maria Locker, founder and CEO of Mompreneurs, and Lynn Pelzer, president of Fem City. So all 3 women here, I'd been either on their stage or hosting a workshop or an event with their group of community, where I was that featured featured expert, and they had always given me opportunities to reach more people, make a bigger impact. I wanted to do the same and reached out to them, and I was able to include their feedback in my book and also in my marketing. So I think that's just some of the ways that you can use your book and leverage it for credibility. And the third case study I want to share with you is about stepping up your message and impact. And ultimately, this may seem obvious, but what it did for me was push me to the next level. So one of those things I did is I reached out to my mentor, Amber Mack, and she is that go-to tech expert on the Marilyn Dennis show. She had over 300,000 fans on Facebook. But what I liked about her message is that although she has this huge community, to this day, she has remained authentic and responds individually to her marketing messages. And I felt like her message was important for my readers to hear. And she kicked off a series of the Ready to Amplify interviews that we put together here at leighfowler.com to inspire our membership and audience and community. And the crazy thing about the Ready to Amplify interviews is it forced me to reach out and connect with the women that had inspired me over the years, and people that maybe I was more nervous to talk to or think like, oh, they'll never talk to me. It was really important for me to clarify my message and the impact I wanted to make in order to invite them onto my show. So my message had to be super clear in order to reach out to these women that gave me the confidence, first of all, but also it helped them determine whether or not they wanted to be involved as well. And additionally, again, I shared these earlier, but really owning my message, starting to quote myself instead of other people, and stepping up the impact that I wanted to make. And so these are just little ways that a leverage book launch you can utilize and really do yourself. Like, this is all stuff that's in your head. And Shelly in the chat box is sharing a link to the 17, I think we've done 17 or 18 interviews now with some really incredible women that have shared, one lady, she made $300,000 in 5 days, like just really great success stories. And also the imposter syndrome they went through and the fear factors and all the neat barriers that popped up and how they navigated them. So if you're using the workbook, I know Shelly posted in the chat box earlier, I wanted to share with you 3 success factors that these case studies all had in common. And, they're kind of simple and obvious, and let me go through them right now. But before I do want to play the video trailer. It's 1 minute long. So make sure your headphones are okay. I'm going to press the screen and I think it's going to play. So let's see how this goes here. Oh, okay, hold on. Let's go back. Oh, here's the play button. Okay, let's try that again. Ready to Amplify is a book designed to give experts, consultants, business coaches, speakers, and authors a way to strategically build content to help them amplify and to do it in a way that feels good, that is authentic and purposeful. So this book is ultimately for the entrepreneur who is here in this world to make a bigger impact and is finding themselves getting maybe stuck in getting to that next point. Here's the thing, we're never ready, really ready. And often the biggest changes in our business, the most momentum we find happens when we take that step past the point of feeling ready. In this pocketbook, it's 7 days of exercises and strategies that any service-based entrepreneur can implement in their business to get the momentum and return on their investment that they're looking for when it comes to amplifying their credibility, their visibility, their community, their impact, and their reach with really good, smart strategy. What this book does is it walks you through systematic ways to scale and grow your business, to position yourself as that go-to expert that you are in a way that helps people know, like, and trust you, but also builds your credibility at the same time. This book is about helping you, the reader, get the magic out and into the world and into the homes of more people.
So what I want you to do is I want you to buy my book. I'm just kidding. I do want you to buy my book. But what I really want to do is make a bigger impact in helping those that have the magic inside of them shine through a little bit brighter, and to give you some of the stepping stones and the structure and the tools to support you in that journey. So it's a source of inspiration. It's a source of structure. It's 20 years of marketing and publishing experience jam-packed into a 7-day pocket guide for you to use and reference and help you amplify your visibility, credibility, impact, community, and reach. And so, yeah, I want you to buy this book, but I want you to show up and shine.
Okay. Oh, no. Okay, so the reason I shared that video was that I wanted you to see the clarity behind the message. So what I had to do a couple months before the book launch is really put together a list of marketing videos that I wanted. And I spent a whole 7-hour day shooting video so that I could have my elements from my book trailer, but also marketing elements and pieces where I have tips and about me and all kinds of video to support my future marketing. And I had to get super clear on like, who's this book for? And who am I to write it? And why is that a good thing? And what's my vision? So when I work with my clients too, it's about establishing like the vision for the marketing, but also like those key messages and call to actions and identifying like who your reader is. So the success factor one that I want to talk about, and I can't believe this spelling error just came through on my PowerPoint, but content that converts. I think I thought I fixed that on one of the slides. So content that converts incorporates a clear vision, a clear message, and a clear call to action. And so if you are following along in the workshop details here, I believe we do have the case study notes for here. But one of the success factors of all three of those experiences that I shared earlier was that I had a clear vision and a clear message, a clear call to action, but also that reestablished my credibility, enhanced my visibility, it built momentum for my business and created some impact. And so as you can see, my slides here are a little out of order, but that's just the way it is. Spelling errors and everything. But it's important that content that converts. So you're really getting clear about creating content that's clear with clarity. Like, what do you want your marketing to do for you? What do you want your book to do for you? And so being very goal oriented and focused. The second success factor of all those situations where I was able to leverage my expertise and book a speaking position as a go-to coach was the ownership of my message and expertise. So what that involves is a bit of dreaming big and thinking bigger, making bigger asks. So reaching out to the women that inspired me, asking for the business, investing in my vision. So that was something that was, it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, but there's just certain things that I cannot do. And I think as entrepreneurs, when we first start in our business, we're very comfortable in this one kind of sort of area of like do it all, right? Wear all those hats. And for me, especially when I started working on my book, it forced me to say, okay, what can I do really well and delegate the rest? So for example, the video production, the cover production, we'll talk a little bit about those hidden costs of self-publishing. When you really get down and think about it, the book is a marketing tool. So you need to think about your marketing budget and also the ratio of your spend to sales or revenue kind of ratio, because you want it to all, at the end of the day, pay off. And so you are going to take some risks, not just in a financial way, but in putting yourself out there. There were people that said no to me, but the majority of people did say yes. And so what that means is getting outside of your box and getting comfortable being uncomfortable. All right. And the third success factor is around collaboration. So collaboration is key. It takes a village. And what I mean by that is that even myself, who I've been in publishing marketing for 2 decades in that field, my career choice ultimately, I had to reach out to fellow marketers. I had to reach out to producers and creators and people to contribute to my book and help me with feedback, and help me promote it, help me get in front of more people. And so I think that's something all those things had in common ultimately with event planners and with the praise and testimonials, that it's about collaboration. It's about helping other people, making a bigger impact and reaching more people. And so that was one of those things for me. It gives me the goosebumps because yeah, it's just so effective, and we can't do it all on our own. And that's what I've learned, is even knowing how to do it, I still needed help because fears popped up, imposter syndrome popped up, getting a second opinion, decision fatigue, all those things really came to play for me. So I want to share briefly how I wrote my book in 5 days and why you can too. I've just put together 4 bullet points here in the worksheet. You can follow along as well. But I wanted to share the decision I made that helped me launch my book. And this photo is really pixelated. But basically I had an event, it was probably in April or May, where I had an event in June. I wanted to make a big splash. I wanted to take things to the next level. I knew I had wanted to write a book for 20 years. Just never really started or finished or, really got it all. I have many outlines and mock covers, but just it never really happened. And I was like, I need to, I work with authors that use a book as their business card. I need to start walking my talk this year in a bigger way. And so, so I decided in 4 weeks, I was going to put a copy of my book in every single one of those attendee bags. And so I made that decision, which kind of gave me a hard deadline. And the second thing I did was I actually repurposed my expertise for the book. So what I want you to think about here is most of you that are watching are coaches, consultants, experts, speakers who know your stuff. So you probably have a workshop, a mini course, a blog series. You have content already for your book. It may not be the first book you write, like your dream book may not be the first book you write, but if you're using a book as your business card, I highly recommend going through the things that you know inside out, like the back of your hand, and pick one of those. And so for me, that was taking one of my challenges from, it was called Amp Up Your Street Cred, a 7-day challenge. But I was really in the process with my marketing over the last few years to create marketing that I could convert into online courses, summits, and workshops and things like that. So I want you to think about the fact that in the last 6 months of the year, if you can convert your marketing into your book, you've got a good plan. So you already have to do your marketing. You already have to write stuff and put content out there. Why not create it with a vision to repurpose into your book or into your course or both? And so this is what happened. I basically created a 7-day pocket guide to amping up your street cred. And what I did is I used a transcription service called Rev, and they were able to give me my transcripts of all those presentations. And then I edited through those, which composed about 7 chapters of the book. But then I created a second outline for myself for the book to sort of create, that conversion piece. And so the outline basically consisted of the chapter fronts and backs. So I started looking at what do I want at the front of my chapters and the back? And, do I want a quote? Do I want a call to action? What does my table of contents look like? I know for a fact that Amazon, you'll see this later, if I didn't put it in the slide, you can mark it down now, converts the first 10 pages of your book into a preview on Amazon. So it's really important, what's at the front in the table of contents and in the flow. And so when I was doing my writing periods of the 5 days of writing the book, you know, part of that was converting the 7-day challenge, but the rest was filling in the blanks. So if I was having like a writer's block with an element of my book, I'd go to something really simple, like the dedication, the introduction, the letter to the reader, the copyright page, you know, researching what I wanted on the copyright page, what I wanted to do for the forward, what did I want my about the author page to say, and did I want a glossary at the end or resources? What do I want it to say on the back cover? Like the back cover for my book has changed so many times. Picture, no picture, praise, you know, a little about the book. You know, there's so many things you can do at the back of the book that are great marketing tools. So if you're writing this down on a worksheet, those are the 7 steps I would do to fill in my repurposed content to make it more book friendly. Okay, so my book was about 108 pages. So I think that's about 10,000 words. And then the why factor. So despite the fact that I had a really killer deadline for this event and I already had the content, I still needed that extra edge. And for me, a big part of that extra why factor was my son. You know, it's not as complicated as you think. You know, we could have extra motivation outside of our business. And I think that was the real push for me, was knowing it would inspire my friends and family, that I would have a tangible keepsake of my efforts as an entrepreneur and proof of product, a reminder to myself what I set out to do, like to also let other people know they could do it too. The why not factor, like why not write a book? My son, of course, setting the example, dream big, think bigger. And so those are things to think about for yourself when you're putting your book together. Like, is this something you can give to your family, that you can give to your clients? Why is it going to make a difference in your life? And really dig deep around that, because you know, for me, it took the death of my mom to realize that when we leave this world, there's not much left behind. You know, there's the material things, but the one thing that made a huge difference for me was her recipe book. She had captured the years and years of the family traditions inside of a book, and printed 14 copies and shared with us. And I relive moments and memories with her when I opened that book. And so that was a real game changer for me, was how do I leave my mark in the world? So 3 ways to leverage your book launch to get more clients. I've shared some case studies for you and with you, but I did want to talk briefly about this. I know that the main highlight here was the 7 hidden costs. We're going to go through an Amazon bestseller launch, and I do want to end promptly at the top of the hour for you guys. But I want to talk a little bit about more tangible leverage. Earlier, I talked about credibility and visibility, and different opportunities around stepping up your game and upping the ante, collaboration. But these are sort of on the monetary side. You know, leveraging your book launch to get more clients. A big leverage piece is list building. So I don't think I did a screenshot for this, but one of the things I've done is offered a download for a free chapter of my book. I also, in my book, created at the back of a lot of the chapters a resource page, and I'll share a screenshot of that later. But basically, if you see in my little window, if I'm still on video, you know, there's a little section here that says, you know, download my top 10 unicorn posts and my amplifiers dashboard, you know, so there's accompanying things in the book for the reader to connect with me and ultimately stay in contact after they've read the book and potentially work with me. The newest editions of my book, I'm pretty excited. They're coming out in 3 weeks. At the back of the book are going to have my program logos and some call to actions to work with me. I also, at the very end, have contact information to connect with me on social media, book me for speaking gigs. My bio's in there. So there's just definitely ways you can list build offline, like with the actual book, and online. So on your book sales page, you can have a lot of my clients, I recommend doing this, is doing a pre-order campaign where those that buy the book come back to the website and opt in to receive some free gifts to accompany their purchase, and then they get added to the list, and potentially ideally you do it in a way where you're nurturing those readers. So a masterclass, a summit, I've seen a membership site trial been offered in exchange. I had one client put 400 members into her membership site when she did this. I had another woman run an 11-day summit and just, you know, connected with some high level entrepreneurs and got like eyeballs on her business in a big way. So it's a way to leverage that book launch and really kind of get in front of the people you want to help and serve. The second way to leverage a book launch is through relationship building and collaboration. So leveraging is kind of an interesting thing. It's a door opener. So for me, we saw back in that case study where, you know, for Jennifer Beal, you know, I gave her a copy of my book. It really clarified like who I was, what I cared about, what I'm good at. And it helped me build that relationship with her on a level where she began to see like who I was and what I did. The collaboration. So my Ready to Amplify interview series was incredibly powerful in motivating my audience and getting in front of more people. So all kinds of ways to leverage that book launch to get in front of more people and more, you know, book more speaking gigs. Another thing I did was, you know, reaching out to podcast interviewees and media, which is another piece. The third way I want you to think about leveraging your book launch ultimately. So we talked about relationship building and collaboration. So the difference between the two ultimately is about, you know, the relationship building was about reconnecting, building awareness, celebrating with your audience and clients about the book, helping them be involved, hosting a book launch event. There's many different ways that you can kind of get in front of people, stay top of mind. This is something we all struggle with, and it's an instant door opener for those kind of opportunities, but also for promotions, media, speaking gigs. A book is an excellent way to, you know, give to attendees, to put in the grab bag, to get your foot in the door with a local news station, to let event planners know exactly what you're here to do on this earth, you know, for lack of a more dramatic explanation. You know what I mean? So I invite you guys, I have a link at the end and Shelly can pop it in there, but to, you know, if you have ideas about your book launch and how you want to leverage it in your business, I offer complimentary book launch chats. It's the most romantic piece of my business is the book launch. It's something I'm way more focused on this year than ever, is really helping those entrepreneur experts and consultants, business coaches to connect with their audience in a bigger way and make a difference. And it's one of the most romantic things that I do with my clients because it's about making dreams come true and really putting their book into reality. It's something that changes their world, will change mine, and it's just a really great thing. So I offer that complimentary at leigfowler.com/book-chat, but something to think about. So the 7 hidden money pits in the self-publishing journey. So I'm going to just stop here for a second. I want to check the Q&A. I don't see any open questions. Did I have any poll? I'm just curious. I'm going to launch a quick poll. How many of you are writing a book right now, are thinking about writing a book, or have written a book? So yeah, this is an anonymous. I don't think I can see it right now. I can't see who's voting, but I just get percentages, but Zoom might tell me later who voted, but it's all good. I just want to know for now as I focus this presentation on, you know, who's doing what. So yeah, so 60% of you are writing a book right now. And so I think that's a huge piece of what we're going to talk about today is finishing the book and why that's a great, there's a great business case for that. So when you are looking at writing your book, you're also kind of thinking ahead, okay, how do I publish this? How do I get it out there? So I wanted to kind of walk you guys through some inspiration, but also some logistics here. Okay, so I'm going to just end the poll there. Okay, great. Thank you for participating in that. So the first one I want to talk about is the cover. And I talked about this earlier because I said, you know, at one point in our business, we got to stop wearing multiple hats and eventually reach out and get the people that are doing things properly. Now, despite that, you may notice a spelling error on the cover of my book. Sometimes it jumps out at me, and sometimes people say it's a great thing. This is why it takes a village. My latest copy that's being reprinted, hold on, where is it? There is one with the correct, here it is. There's the correct spelling, visibility. So the cover, initially I had two covers. The first one didn't land well. People didn't really know what the book was about. Some people thought I was a fitness trainer. And so I took it to the next level and hired a team to help me with my book to really make it pop and clarify what it was meant to do there. And so there's elements of the design process. We'll go through the vendors and kind of hidden costs there, but you know, with different print distribution, digital distribution, for me as well, like I don't specialize in high res files. So imagine if I sent this to the printers and it was pixelated or was blurry. Like these are things you don't want to risk with your, you know, with your cover. And so, you know, for some people they do, I know some people charge $500 for a cover. Some people charge $1,500 for a cover. It's worth every penny. It is something, it's the first thing people see. You're going to look at it for the rest of your life, and it makes all the difference in your marketing materials and in your brand. So it's something I would seriously consider in your budget. The second thing I want you to think about is formatting. So one client came to me and said that the formatting of the first book that I did was really difficult. The flow wasn't there. And so that was a really helpful feedback for me to make sure that the next version of my book had more readability. But the other thing I learned as well is that when you're publishing to digital, you know, you need slightly different margins. If you're doing print on demand versus print, you need to create a different file format. And again, this is just not my wheelhouse, and it's something I've outsourced. And sometimes if you're already having someone with the printing, that might be included in their printing costs. And sometimes it's added feature. So it's something you got to get real clear on is, you know, how are you going to be distributing your book and where and you know what your budget is for that. So I went through 2 rounds of my book. So again, we'll talk a little bit about galley copies shortly, but you know, I had my first version of my book and then the second version. So these different print rounds. This book was $2 a copy. This one's I think $2.04 a copy when I print it on demand and in local distributors. So galley copies. I'm going to talk later a little bit about galley copies and the definition of those, but ultimately they are a non-edited, not for resale version of your book. And these are great. It's a great, maybe you spend $200, $300, get 50 copies, 100 copies to distribute for advanced praise, reviews, marketing, speaking opportunities, testimonials, interviews, things like that. It was a great investment and something people don't talk about a lot. I think it's kind of like a publishing insider thing. I don't know for sure, but it definitely played a lot of you know, it worked for me in getting me a better cover, better formatting for my book, and just felt like I was much more proud of my book after this. There's some things you want to think about. I hear my volume is going up and down a little bit, so I'm going to just pump it up. It could be because I'm maybe getting shy. I don't know. I'll try and speak right to the microphone. But digital distribution is something that you have to look at. Each platform takes a different commission and royalty when you distribute, whether it's print on demand or digital distribution. Amazon, for example, on the digital side takes depending on the price of the book, takes 70% royalty over 35%, depending on how it's priced. So, these are things you want to think about, because like to make money from selling books is a full-time job. So to leverage your book launch with business call to actions for people to sign up for your services is a much better financial strategy than thinking you're going to make a lot of money off book sales, because there are the retail commissions and shipping and printing and production costs to consider. So this is one of them. The other one is the print distribution. So once you print all those books, you got to think about fulfillment, shipping, storage, getting it to libraries, advanced copies, review copies, and different types of printers offer different distribution elements and services. So that is another hidden cost that many don't talk about. And then we look at retail. So retail involves a lot of floating parts here. This is just a real minor summary. And in fact, we're looking at, I think I look at the left side of my screen here, because I think there's things like event planners. You might send your book as, a gift. There's just so many copies that you have to get out. Wholesalers will charge a certain price and or commission. So there's a whole financial model here to think about. And again, it doesn't really affect me because my book is my business card. And so it's a marketing tool and not a revenue maker for me, like as a priority anyhow. It does make revenue, but it's not the priority. So these are other kind of like elements of a launch that you can think about or include or not include, right? Lots of options. And then there's production updates. So this is probably one of the most important pieces, I think, for an entrepreneur author, is to have some marketing tools on your website, on your email signature, adding a media page, an about page, having some marketing graphics. And so I would definitely, unless you're a graphic artist yourself, definitely consider investing in production for your book launch. And so that's something we don't talk about a lot, but they add up very quickly. Okay, key publishing milestones. So there's actually 4 stages that I like to think about in a launch. And I didn't write them down here, so I'm going to say them out loud. They're in your workshop and they're relatively simple. So when I work with my clients, often I like to work with them 3 to 6 months out before they launch their book, and then the 3 months after they launch their book. So we look at 4 stages. We look at pre-launch, which is really in the development and production of your book. And then there's pre-launch, which is your pre-order period. And there's many elements there of getting the graphics out, hooking up your interviews, lining them up, lining up speaking gigs. There's the launch itself. And then there's post-launch. And so those are the 4 stages that are in your worksheet that I want you to take note of. But then I break it down into some separate milestones that I found come up most commonly for my clients. And so the first milestone, which often has a different timeline for most of my clients, is the writing the book part. Most people think once they've written the book that they're done and they're ready to publish, but unfortunately, that's just half the battle. And so we look at taking another 6 weeks to work on the editing of the book and exterior design, making sure that the cover is done and the back of the cover and the ISBN and the spine and things like that we don't think about, back and forth with the proofs. Then we look at the interior design and marketing assets. So, how do we lay out the chapters? What kind of font are we using? Do we have things at the back with call to actions? And usually that's another 8 weeks. Now, granted, I'm definitely padding these dates. Remember, I said earlier, I did my book in 5 days, but I really rolled it out over 6 months from May to November. And so these pieces kind of came together and overlapped quite a bit. The galley copy printing usually takes about 4 weeks from start to finish. Distribution a week. So if you want to ship copies out to people and reach out for reviews, pre-launch promotions is another. I like to get people promoting their book about 2 months out from the launch and release date of their book. And then there's printing and retail distribution. So setting up accounts with the different distributors and retailers and the such. So those are your publishing milestones. So if you're like me, I often will take a big screenshot because I can't write that fast. And so if you need a second to take a screenshot of this one, please go ahead and let me know how that's coming along. Okay, so we're gonna move into top 10 vendor types to consider. So basically, oh, a little placeholder there. I just made a quick list here for you because I really have been talking a lot about the sort of deliverables and investments that you want to be thinking about when you're putting out your book launch. But I mentioned a book video trailer, so I worked with a videographer. I reached out to a media consultant, to get feedback on my pitches. Lots of people, like I said, it takes a village, and I'm just thinking out loud, I should do like a behind the scenes, it takes a village presentation of all the people like personally that I worked with to put to my book launch. I would love to kind of, put you guys out there on the spotlight and share how you helped me out there. So these are the people: printing, distributing, editing, formatting, retail, production and design, media, marketing, and digital conversions and stuff. So that's, a list of people that you have to start kind of compiling to get your team together, because most of us can't do this stuff, right? So, there's companies that offer packaging, and I offer a lot of strategy pieces of this and kind of work with the distributors and vendors to help my clients get it all done, so that it's all kind of connected. I think that's the toughest part, is there's all these moving parts and we're all speaking different languages. So often I act as like that go-to man or woman who kind of connects all these vendors together and helps them connect and communicate and get things done in a timely manner. The thing I want to talk about here briefly, so I just kind of skipped over the vendors, but I did want to highlight the Amazon bestseller launch piece. This is something that can intimidate a lot of people. There's a lot of like, oh, well, anyone can be an Amazon bestseller, versus, oh, I could never be a bestseller. I have to sell thousands of copies. So there's a lot of myths, and Shelly, if you're watching, I should do a blog post about the myths of Amazon bestseller launches, the myths behind Amazon bestseller launches. I think that'd be a good one, because ultimately she's noting that when I did my launch, I was able to get to the top of multiple bestseller lists with a strategic launch during the pre-order period. What it also did for me, and I'm not sure if I took a screenshot of this, but I'll have to dig it up, is it got me in the hot new release section during my bestseller launch, which just got me more visibility, but affected my ranking on Amazon, which affects future sales on Amazon, which is great. Builds credibility. It's something that you can put in your future marketing or email signature when you start kind of adapting your marketing to get your foot in the door with clients and with event planners and with podcast interviewers. It's always nice to have that bestseller title in there, and it's worth the effort. A lot of us get a little shy about this. The one myth I do want to share with is that it doesn't take 1,000 copies to get into the Amazon bestseller list. I think for some, it can be 1,000 copies depending on their list and their marketing efforts and how far their reach is. But the key thing here is that there's 14,000 categories on Amazon, and my job is to help strategically place you and sort of collaborate all your efforts into one day launch, ideally, that gets you the title, moves you around with strategic and smart strategies. So that's a done for you service I do for my clients as part of the strategy pieces we work on. So before I leave you today, I want to share 3 book launch game changers that will rock your campaigns. They may be obvious, they may not. So let's start with game changer number one, the galley copies. Okay, so the galley copies ultimately are a game changer. They kind of start building your confidence before the launch. It's a great way to beat writer's block because it is an advanced copy, not for resale, unedited version of your book. So there we go here. Galley copies are advanced, not for resale copies of your book. They may not be fully edited, formatted, or even finished, but they can be used for editing and marketing purposes like requesting advanced reviews, promotions, introductions, giveaways, and for those involved in the production of the book. So this was a game changer for me. It got me past the writer's block. It got me past the imposter syndrome and past the perfection. What is that called when, oh, there's a good two-word term for it, when you can, yeah, perfection slows you down. So it kind of, yeah, if anyone knows that term or expression where perfection slows you down, it's like, oh, okay, I will think of it soon. So galley copies, getting feedback, getting, you know, the cover, ultimately the feedback on the cover was, it just wasn't landing. And that was huge for me. And in my promotional tools, it just like really made a difference to help me make the final version. The second game changer I didn't talk much about earlier was the forward. And the forward was an element for me where it took a big ask to reach out to somebody that would help my readers, that inspired me over the years, that had a big audience. And I don't know if I put a picture in here earlier, but yeah, she even did a live stream with me, Amber Mack, co-host of the feed, the new AI, like just a great woman to share and highlight how content strategies have helped her and her business stay authentic and real, good old fashioned relationship strategies. So her message is aligned with mine, and it was a great collaboration and a game changer for me. It gave me the confidence to reach out to more people, to ask them to read my book and to give me reviews and feedback. And so that's something I want you guys to think about. And the third thing is the power of pre-order. I'm just going to jump ahead here. So yeah, the power of pre-order, do I have one more slide? No. The power of pre-order ultimately is an opportunity to list build, to collaborate, to build hype and visibility, to reconnect with your clients, your community, the people involved in the production of your book. It's a huge game changer. It builds momentum for your business. It does help with the bestseller title attempt. A lot of people still have that feeling like you have to put your book up for free to get a bestseller title. I don't believe in that anymore. I believe in selling your book at full price. So the power of pre-order is just that. It builds the hype, it builds the traction for your business, and it's just an incredible way to involve your community and list build, lead gen, build awareness, and help raise your vibe as well. So number three was the power of pre-order. And getting it done is better than getting it perfect, is that expression I was trying to come up with earlier with the galley copy. Yeah. So there you go, guys. We're just on the edge of the hour. If you're ready to launch a book in 2019 or thinking about it, I wanted to invite you to book a complimentary chat with me. Even if you've done it before, let's do it again. Let's get this and make this book a reality. In the meantime, I have a Facebook group called the Confident Content Creator Community, the Creator Club. It's online on Facebook, but you can go to this link below. And Shelly, if you can pop those links in the chat box as well, they're not clickable on screen, that'd be amazing. I'd love to hang out with you and answer your questions there, and to also check out some upcoming products. I'm going to have some local in-person workshops happening in August and September called the Birth Your Book Workshop. And in September, I am launching a new program called Leverage Your Book Launch, which will be a community-based program to help you launch, publish, print, and promote your book with the Amazon bestseller strategies done for you, and a lot of services and community and experts at your fingertips, including all those 10 vendors. I'm going to be bringing people in, so you do have access to those resources. It's going to be an incredible program, and I'm already talking with people about putting them in for September, and early birds get some bonuses as well. When you go to that sales page, you're going to see a sneak peek at the program. There's still some placeholders there. So it's coming down the pipe, but again, better done than perfect, right? So I want to thank you guys so much for joining me, hanging out today. I know it's summertime. I want you dreaming and thinking about, you know, the opportunities in front of you, about repurposing your expertise. Your book is probably already written in your head. But you do need those motivators and elements of business, monetization, and sort of marketing milestones that you can leverage to move it forward. And I'm happy to help. I want to see you get your genius out into the world to show up and shine. And I will open it up if you do have questions. I invite you to send me a PM. I don't know if there's any right now. I'm just going to check if there's any. Oh, there are questions. Oh no. Okay. Sorry. There were some comments there. Yeah. So thank you for that. But yeah, so for everyone on here, I know most of you here, you are incredible at what you do, and I just hope you do put your book out soon. Even though I'm not the one to help you, happy to provide some inspiration today, and hope you have an amazing summer, and hope I talk to you guys soon. Okay, I'm going to stop the show. There we go. I'm going to stop my video. Bye, guys. Thank you. And I'm going to stop recording. There we go.